The night was cold on the strange alien world. The wind moved across the empty land, carrying with it the smell of dust and metal. The stars above were brighter than anything the human soldier had ever seen before. He walked carefully, his boots pressing into the soft ground, each step echoing in the silence. He was far from his unit, far from safety, and he knew one wrong move could mean his end. The human was tired, his body heavy, but his mind sharp. War had taught him to never lower his guard even when he felt safe. Especially on a planet that did not belong to humans, his breath made small clouds in the freezing night air. The forest ahead looked dark, thick, and alive with secrets. It was not a place he wanted to enter, but he had no choice. He needed shelter before the temperature dropped even lower. As he moved closer to the trees, a faint sound touched his ears. At first he thought it was the wind, a trick of nature. But then he heard it again. Soft, broken, almost like crying. The soldier stopped, his hand tightening around his weapon. His eyes scanned the shadows, his heart beating faster. No soldier likes surprises in enemy lands. He stood still, listening, the sound coming again, weak and fragile. It was not a soldier's cry, not a beast's roar. It was something else, something small, something lost. The human stepped forward slowly, careful not to make noise. The sound grew clearer with every step. It was the sound of fear, the sound of pain, the sound of someone alone, and then he saw her. At the base of a fallen tree curled up against the cold wood was a girl, but not a human girl. Her skin was pale with a strange glow, faint lights running along her arms like veins of silver. Her hair was thin, almost transparent, moving slightly as if the air itself wanted to hold it. Her eyes were half closed, glowing softly in the darkness. She was trembling, her small frame shaking violently in the cold. The soldier froze, his heart racing. He had been told stories of aliens, enemies of humans, but none of those stories matched what he saw now. She was no warrior, no monster. She was just a child, scared and fragile. For a moment he thought about leaving. He told himself this was not his problem, not his mission, but something inside him refused to move away. The soldier had seen many battles, had seen death too many times, yet this sight, this trembling girl, felt different. It reminded him of home, of the children who had once played in safety. He lowered his weapon slowly. "Hey," he whispered. Though he knew she might not understand, the girl's glowing eyes opened wider. She gasped softly, fear flashing across her face. She pressed herself against the tree, trying to escape his shadow. The soldier raised both hands, showing he meant no harm. His voice was calm, careful. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." But she did not move closer. Her eyes followed his every step as he crouched down a short distance away. He could see her thin clothes, torn and useless against the freezing air. Her lips were pale, her breathing shallow. The human knew one thing very clearly. If she stayed like this, she would not survive the night. He looked at her and then at the sleeping bag strapped to his pack. It was his only warmth, his only comfort. Giving it away meant more risk for him, but leaving her meant certain death for her. The soldier's chest tightened. A quiet battle. Inside his mind, finally, he sighed and pulled the bag free. He opened it wide and placed it gently on the ground between them. His gesture was simple, but his eyes spoke the words she could not understand. "Take it," he whispered. The alien girl blinked, her glowing eyes flickering with confusion. She looked at the bag, then back at him. Her small hands shook as she pulled the torn fabric around her tighter. She did not move, not yet. The soldier stayed still, letting her choose. He knew trust could not be forced, especially between enemies. The cold grew sharper, the night heavier. The human watched her, patient, waiting. Finally, with slow and trembling movements, the girl reached out. Her fingers brushed the soft fabric. She pulled it closer, her eyes never leaving his face. And then, almost in silence, she slipped into the sleeping bag, curling into its warmth. The soldier let out a quiet breath of relief. He leaned back against the tree and kept his weapon close. The girl's eyes closed halfway, her trembling slowing as warmth began to return to her small body. For the first time that night, the forest was quiet, but in the human's heart, a storm had begun. Who was she, this strange alien child? Why was she alone in the dark forest? And what dangers would come when the galaxy learned a human had shown kindness to one of their own? The encounter was only the beginning. The real story had yet to unfold. The forest was still, but the human soldier could not relax. The alien girl lay wrapped in his sleeping bag, her small body finally free from the sharp cold. Her glowing eyes flickered open and shut as if she fought against sleep, afraid that closing them meant danger. The soldier leaned against the tree, his weapon resting across his knees, his eyes scanning the shadows around them. Even as he kept watch, his mind turned again and again to the same question. What had he just done? He had broken a rule, maybe the most important one. Humans were told never to trust the alien kind. War had been long, hard, and full of betrayal. Too many soldiers had died because they had shown mercy. But now here he was, giving warmth to an alien child. He thought of his unit, of the commander's voice saying, "You survive first. You help no one." Yet when he saw the girl shivering in the dark, something inside him refused to walk away. He could not ignore her, no matter what the rules said. The girl shifted inside the sleeping bag, her glowing skin lighting faint shadows on the ground. The soldier frowned, watching the strange patterns that moved across her arms. They were not tattoos, not scars, but something alive, something that pulsed faintly with her heartbeat. What did it mean? And why was she alone? He wanted to ask her, but he knew she would not understand his words. And yet, when her eyes opened, again there was something in them. Not just fear, but intelligence, thought, maybe even curiosity. The human reached into his pack and pulled out a ration bar. The small block of food looked plain and dull. Nothing special. He broke it in half and placed one piece on the ground between them. The girl's glowing eyes fixed on it, her expression unreadable. For a long moment she did nothing, only staring at him. Then with slow hands, she reached out. Her thin fingers brushed the ration bar before she pulled it quickly to her chest. She sniffed it, hesitated, and then took a small bite. The crunch echoed softly in the night. Her lips curved slightly, almost like a smile. The soldier looked away, feeling a strange warmth inside his chest. But even as he sat there, doubts filled his mind. He knew this was no ordinary child. The glowing marks, her strange hair, her strange presence, none of it was normal. What if she was dangerous? What if the hunters who chased her were already close? By helping her, had he just painted a target on his own back? The girl finished the ration bar slowly, as if she had not eaten in days. When she was done, she curled tighter into the sleeping bag. Her glowing eyes closed at last, her breathing soft and even. The soldier watched her in silence, listening to the soft rhythm. And then, for the first time in hours, he allowed himself to breathe deeply. But peace did not last. A sound broke through the forest. Faint but sharp, a branch snapping, too heavy for the wind, too deliberate to be chance. The soldier's body tensed, his hand gripping his weapon tight. His eyes scanned the trees, searching for movement. Nothing, only the endless black of the forest. But he knew he was not alone. He had been in battle long enough to feel when danger was close. The girl stirred. In her sleep, her glowing eyes half opening, she whispered something in a strange tongue. Words broken, soft, urgent. Though he could not understand, he felt the warning in her voice. She was not safe, and by staying near her, neither was he. The soldier's mind raced. He had a choice. He could leave her here, slip back into the forest and survive. She would not last long without him. But that was not his problem. Or he could carry on with his dangerous choice, protecting her against enemies he did not know. It was a decision that could cost him his life. But it was also a decision that could define who he was. A soldier who followed orders, or a human who followed his heart. He looked at the girl, her small body wrapped in his only source of warmth. He saw the faint glow of her skin, the innocence in her fragile form, and something inside him hardened. He could not abandon her. Not now. Not ever. Even if it meant standing against enemies stronger than him, even if it meant he would not survive the night, his decision was made. The soldier adjusted his pack and checked his weapon. He shifted closer to the girl, placing himself between her and the direction of the noise. His eyes narrowed as he watched the dark forest. "Come if you want," he muttered under his breath, "but you'll have to get through me first." The night pressed heavier, the silence sharper. The human soldier waited, the alien girl slept, and the forest whispered of dangers yet to come. The decision was made, and with it the path ahead would never be the same. The first night. The forest grew darker as the two of them stayed beneath the heavy trees. The air was colder now, sharp and biting, wrapping the land in silence. The alien girl lay inside the soldier's sleeping bag, her small form hidden under the fabric. Her glowing skin dimmed slowly like fading stars as warmth finally reached her trembling body. The human soldier sat close, his back against the rough bark of a tree, his weapon held tightly across his lap. Every sound of the night pressed into his ears, each crack of a branch or rush of wind raising his heartbeat. But his eyes always drifted back to the girl. She was not asleep. Not yet. Her eyes, soft and glowing like tiny lanterns, blinked at him through the shadows. She seemed curious, almost studying his every move. When he shifted, she shifted. When he breathed deeper, she held her breath. The soldier realized she was watching him, not with the fear she first had, but with something else. A small, cautious trust, the kind that is born from survival. It made him uneasy and yet strangely calm. The human wanted to speak, to ask her questions, but words were useless. He knew she could not understand his language, just as he could not understand hers. Still, silence carried meaning. He nodded once toward her, slow and steady, trying to tell her without words that she was safe. She blinked, tilted her head, then curled tighter into the warmth of the sleeping bag. It was a small answer, but it was enough. Hours passed, the forest never sleeping. Strange animals cried in the distance, wings beating overhead, shadows slipping through the trees. The soldier stayed alert, his eyes sharp, his body ready. He could not afford rest, not yet, not while danger moved unseen in the dark. But even as he kept watch, thoughts turned heavy. Inside his head, he wondered why the girl was alone, why no one searched for her. And then he wondered if maybe they were searching, and maybe they were close. That thought made him grip his weapon tighter. The girl stirred, breaking his chain of thought. Her glowing eyes opened again and she whispered something in her alien tongue. The words were soft, strange, almost like the hum of music. He frowned, leaning forward slightly. Her voice shook, but she repeated the words again. The soldier had no idea what she was saying, but the way her voice cracked carried meaning. It was not anger, not warning. It sounded more like fear, like memory. Maybe she spoke in her sleep. Maybe she dreamed of the ones who hunted her. The soldier did not answer, but he whispered anyway. "Rest, little one. You're safe now." Even though he knew she could not understand, the words gave him strength, and maybe in some way she felt them too. For her breathing slowed again. The soldier shifted closer, his body forming a shield between her and the open dark. The cold pressed against him, sharp on his skin, but he ignored it. His warmth was gone to her, and that was enough. He would endure the night without comfort, because she could not. It was a decision he had already made, and he would not take it back. The hours crawled on, slow and heavy. The soldier's eyes grew tired, but his will remained strong. Then, just as the night reached its deepest point, something new came. The sound of movement, faint, like steps pressed lightly on leaves. The soldier froze, listening. His weapon, ready? The alien girl shifted, her glowing eyes opening wide, fear flashing through them instantly. She whispered again in her strange language, her voice urgent this time. The soldier looked at her, saw her shaking hands clutch the sleeping bag tighter. She knew what the sound was. She had heard it before, and he understood. Whoever hunted her was close. The soldier's heart beat fast. Pounding in his chest, he raised his weapon and looked into the darkness. The trees stood silent, black shapes unmoving. The sound faded, then returned, then faded again. Whoever they were skilled at moving unseen. But the soldier knew their type: hunters, trackers, predators, the kind that waited for weakness before they struck. The alien girl whimpered softly. Her eyes locked on him. Her face was pale, her small body trembling. The soldier made a choice without hesitation. He placed a finger to his lips, showing her to be silent. Then he shifted his stance, pressing himself fully between her and the direction of the noise. If danger came, it would meet him first. The girl's glowing eyes widened, tears welling. She whispered a word he did not understand. But her tone was clear. It was not fear this time. It was hope. The forest grew silent once again, as if holding its breath. The soldier waited, minutes dragging like hours. Finally, the sound of movement faded deeper into the forest. No attack came. No shadows broke through the trees. But he knew it was not over. Whoever hunted her would return, and next time they would be closer. The girl curled again inside the bag, her glowing skin dimming as exhaustion took her back into sleep. The soldier stayed awake, his body cold, his weapon steady. His thoughts burned inside him louder than the silence. He had made a choice, and now the weight of it pressed heavy. He would not abandon her, not now, not after what he had seen. But with that choice came danger, more than he had ever faced alone. The first night was almost over, but the true test had only begun. And, deep in his heart, the soldier knew, whatever twist awaited him next, it would change everything. The secret revealed. The morning sun rose slowly above the alien forest. Golden light slipped through the dark trees, chasing away the heavy shadows. Of the night, bird-like creatures screamed from high branches, their calls sharp and echoing. The human soldier rubbed his tired eyes, his body stiff from staying awake all night. He had not slept, not even for a moment. The cold air had bitten into his skin, but he had ignored it. His focus had stayed on the alien girl, the sleeping bag, and the sounds of danger moving in the darkness. Now the forest looked calm, almost peaceful, but the soldier knew better than to trust the quiet. Peace in enemy lands was never real. It was only the silence before something worse arrived. He turned his gaze back to the girl. She lay curled in the sleeping bag, her glowing skin dimmer now in the morning light. Her breathing was steady, her face soft and calm. For a moment she looked like any lost child, fragile and harmless, but then his eyes caught something. The faint glow on her arms had grown brighter, spreading in strange patterns across her skin. They looked almost alive, like rivers of light flowing under her flesh. The soldier frowned, leaning closer. He had noticed the marks before, but now in the daylight they looked different, more powerful. He reached out carefully, not to touch, but to see. And as he did, the girl's eyes snapped open. She gasped, pulling her arms to her chest, hiding the glowing marks. Her reaction was quick, full of fear, as if she had been caught. With a dangerous secret, the soldier froze, his hands raised in calm, showing he meant no harm. But inside his mind, questions burned. Why did she hide it? What was the meaning of those glowing marks? Were they a sign of her species or something unique to her? The girl looked at him, her glowing eyes wide, breathing fast. She whispered something in her alien tongue, her voice sharp and nervous. He could not understand the words, but the meaning was clear. She did not want him to see. The soldier sat back slowly, giving her space. He spoke softly, even though he knew she could not understand. "It's okay. I won't tell anyone." His voice was calm, steady, but inside his chest he felt the weight of her fear. It was not the fear of him, not anymore. It was the fear of what she was. The fear that if others knew, terrible things would happen. Girl clutched the sleeping bag tighter, her small body shaking. She glanced around the forest nervously, as if expecting someone to appear. The soldier followed her eyes. Scanning the trees, he saw nothing, but he trusted her reaction more than the silence. Something about those marks was important, dangerous, maybe even forbidden. As the sun climbed higher, the soldier decided to move. They could not stay in one place, not if hunters were out there. He packed his few supplies quickly, his eyes never leaving the girl. Then he crouched and pointed at her, then at the path ahead. A simple gesture, but one she understood. Her glowing eyes followed his hand, and slowly, with hesitation, she nodded. She slipped out of the sleeping bag, her body weak but her steps steady. The marks on her skin glowed faintly even as she pulled the fabric around her arms to cover them. She wanted to hide them, to make sure he did not see them again, but he had seen enough to know she was no ordinary child. They moved through the forest together, one step at a time. The human soldier walked ahead, scanning for danger. The alien girl followed close, her glowing eyes darting left and right. Every now and then she whispered in her strange language, the words soft like prayers. The soldier wondered if she spoke to him or to herself. Either way, her tone carried fear, hope, and something heavier, responsibility. Hours passed before they stopped to rest by a stream. The water was clear, flowing gently over smooth stones. The soldier knelt and filled his small flask, drinking deeply. When he turned, he saw the girl standing by the water, staring at her. Reflection. Her small hands trembled as she touched the glowing marks on her skin. Her eyes looked full of sadness, as if she hated what she saw. The soldier stepped closer, but she quickly pulled her arms back, hiding the glow. Her lips moved, whispering words he could not understand. Then, for the first time, tears rolled down her glowing cheeks. The soldier froze, his heart tightening. He had seen soldiers cry, he had seen civilians cry, but this was different. This was the cry of someone carrying a weight too heavy for their small body. He wanted to speak, to comfort her, but words felt useless. Instead, he sat beside her quietly, letting his presence speak what his voice could not. After a long silence, she looked at him, her glowing eyes wet with tears. She touched her chest with one hand, then pointed at him with the other. The gesture was clumsy, broken, but it was. The first sign of real communication. The soldier nodded slowly, understanding just enough she was telling him something important. Her secret was not just hers, it was now his too. The soldier sat still, his mind heavy. Whatever those glowing marks meant, whatever truth she carried, he was now part of it. He could no longer pretend she was only a lost child. She was something more, something dangerous, something hunted, and the galaxy would not forgive him for protecting her. The secret was revealed, at least enough for him to know the weight of his choice, but the full truth was still hidden, waiting for the moment when it would change everything. The threat appears. The forest no longer felt safe. The sun was high above, but even the light could not remove the heavy weight in the air. The soldier and the alien girl walked slowly, their steps soft against the earth. Every sound seemed louder now, every whisper of wind, every rustle of leaves. The soldier's eyes moved left and right, searching, waiting, listening. He had been in war long enough to know when eyes were watching him. And now he felt it clearly. Unseen eyes followed them from the shadows. The girl stayed close behind him, her glowing eyes darting around in fear. She clutched the sleeping bag, like it was a shield, her small hands shaking. The soldier knew she sensed it too. Her kind, whatever they were, must have lived with danger for a long time. And now that danger had finally reached them, a branch snapped in the distance, sharp and deliberate. The soldier froze instantly, dropping into a crouch. His hand went to his weapon, his body tense. The girl gasped softly and pressed herself against a tree. Her glowing marks brightened slightly as if reacting to fear. The soldier held up one hand, showing her to stay silent. He listened, the forest holding its breath. Then came another. Sound footsteps, slow, careful, hunting. They were not animals. Animals ran, chased, or fled. These steps were human-like, measured, controlled. The kind of steps made by hunters who knew how to stalk prey. The soldier's stomach turned heavy, his grip tightening on his weapon. He whispered under his breath, words meant only for himself. "They've found us." The alien girl looked at him, her eyes wide. She whispered something in her strange tongue, her voice trembling. Though he did not know the meaning, her tone was clear: fear, warning, desperation. Her glowing skin pulsed faintly. Like a light trying to hide itself, she pressed closer to him, as if trusting his strength to protect her. The soldier's heart pounded. He thought fast, scanning the forest. They could not run on open ground. The hunters would catch them. They could not stay still either. Not with those footsteps growing closer. He needed to move, but carefully. He pointed to the girl, then toward a cluster of thick rocks nearby. She nodded quickly, understanding without words. They moved together, crouching low, slipping behind the rocks as the footsteps grew louder. From their cover, the soldier saw them at last. Shadows between the trees, tall and cloaked in strange armor. Their faces were hidden, but their movements were sharp, precise, deadly. Each one carried weapons glowing faintly with energy. They moved in a wide circle, sweeping the forest with practiced eyes. These were no common hunters. These were trained pursuers, and they were here for the girl. The soldier felt his breath grow heavy. There were 3 of them that he could see, maybe more hidden further back. He counted their steps, their distance, the way they spread out to trap their prey. They were skilled, patient, and merciless, the kind of enemy that never stopped until the hunt was over. The girl crouched low beside him, her glowing eyes filled with terror. Her lips moved as she whispered words too soft to hear. Maybe a prayer, maybe a memory, maybe a cry for help that would never come. The soldier looked at her and felt the weight of his choice pressing down harder than ever. He could leave now, slip into the trees, disappear before they saw him. He could survive, just like the orders said. But then the girl would be taken, and whatever secret she carried would be lost to darkness, and he knew deep inside. He could not do that. Not after seeing her fear, her tears, her small body shaking in the night. Not after giving her warmth and food. Not after hearing her broken words whisper in trust. The soldier clenched his jaw. His decision already made. If the hunters wanted her, they would have to come through him first. But still he waited, watching, measuring the moment. Patience was his weapon as much as the gun in his hands. The hunters moved closer, their voices low, harsh, speaking in a tongue the soldier did not know. One raised a small device that glowed. Faintly scanning the area, the alien girl flinched. Her glowing marks responding to the device, the soldier realized with dread what it was. It was tracking her. They were not just searching blindly. They were locked on her very presence. The device pointed directly toward the rocks. The hunters stopped, their heads lifting sharply. One of them raised his weapon, energy crackling at its tip. The soldier's muscles tensed, ready, his finger brushing the trigger. He looked at the girl, her glowing eyes wide and wet with terror. She clutched his arm suddenly, holding tight with surprising strength. Her lips formed words he could not understand, but the meaning was clear. "Don't leave me." The soldier nodded once. Firm and steady, he whispered back, though she could not understand. "I won't." The hunters stepped forward, their shadows falling across the rocks. The soldier rose slowly, his weapon ready, his body between the girl and the danger. The forest grew silent again. The moment, stretched thin like glass ready to shatter. The soldier's heart pounded like thunder. The girl's glowing marks flared with fear, and then the hunter in front spoke. A single sharp command that echoed through the trees. The sound was not just a word, it was a warning, a promise of violence. The soldier took a breath, steadying. Himself, the threat had appeared, and there was no turning back. The choice. The forest stood silent, heavy with tension. The hunters had found them, their tall figures blocking the path, their weapons glowing faintly with dangerous light. The human soldier tightened his grip on his gun, his body forming a shield between the girl and the enemy. The alien girl clung to his arm, her glowing marks flaring like frightened stars beneath her skin. Her wide eyes begged him, though no words were spoken. It was clear. She trusted him completely now, and he carried the weight of that trust like iron on his chest. The hunters spread out slowly, their movements sharp and exact. One on the left, one on the right, and one directly ahead. They moved like predators, cutting off escape, leaving no path open. Their armor shimmered with strange symbols, and their eyes glowed under dark helmets. These were not simple pursuers. These were trained hunters with a purpose, and that purpose was her. The soldier's mind raced. He could try to fight, but 3 against 1 meant certain death. He could run, but the girl was weak, too slow to escape, and he could abandon her, leave her behind, slip into the trees, and survive. That thought stabbed through him, bitter and cold. He had been taught to survive first, to follow orders, to never take risks that were not part of the mission. But now, staring at the terrified girl, he knew survival without her would mean nothing. The hunter in front raised his weapon, pointing it directly at the girl. The soldier stepped forward instantly, blocking her, his own weapon ready. The hunter tilted his head, as if studying this strange act. Then a low sound came from his helmet, a harsh growl of words in an alien tongue. The soldier did not understand the language, but he understood the meaning. It was a demand. Hand her over, or die. The girl whimpered, pressing closer to the soldier. Her glowing marks flared brighter, her small body shaking. She whispered something in her own language, her voice urgent, desperate. He could not understand, but her tone was clear. If they captured her, something far worse than death would follow, not just for her, but maybe for many others. Her fear was not only for herself, it was for something larger, something hidden. The soldier's chest tightened, his mind torn. If he fought, he might die, leaving her alone anyway. If he surrendered her, she would suffer, and her secret would be lost. If he ran, they would both be hunted, and sooner or later caught. No choice seemed safe, no path promised, survival. And yet, he had to choose now. The hunters stepped closer, their weapons humming with power. The air around them crackled, sharp and dangerous. The soldier steadied his breathing, the weight of the decision pressing on his soul. He thought of his commander's voice, cold and firm. A soldier does not risk everything for nothing. He thought of his unit, of the war, of the endless cycle of orders and survival. Then he thought of the girl, small and fragile, glowing, faintly with fear, her eyes holding his with silent trust. In that moment, the war, the orders, the rules, all of it faded. Only one truth remained. He could not betray that trust, not now, not ever. The soldier lowered his voice, speaking softly to the girl. "You're not alone. Not while I'm here." She could not understand the words, but she felt the meaning. Her trembling slowed, her glowing marks softened, and she looked at him with a spark of hope, a hope that gave him strength. The hunter in front barked another command, harsher this time. The soldier raised his weapon slowly, his eyes locked on the enemy. If they wanted her, they would have to kill him first. The hunters hesitated, surprised. Perhaps why would a human soldier protect her? Why would he stand against 3 armed enemies for an alien child? The soldier did not care what they thought. He had made his choice. The standoff stretched long and silent. The forest around them seemed to lean in, waiting for the storm to break. The girl clutched the soldier's arm, whispering again. Her voice shaking, her glowing marks pulsed brighter, as if alive, as if reacting to the danger. The soldier noticed it, his eyes narrowing. Was there more to her than he knew? Was her secret not only something she carried, but something inside her? Waiting, the hunters moved again, spreading wider, circling. The soldier turned slowly, keeping them in his sight, his heart pounding like thunder. He whispered again to himself, a promise. "I'll fight. Even if I fall, I'll fight." The girl's glowing eyes locked on him, and for the first time, she whispered a word he almost understood. A word that sounded like together. The soldier felt his breath catch. Somehow, some way, a bridge had formed between them. Not through language, not through orders, but through something deeper. Trust, courage, and the choice to stand side by side. It was not the safer path, but it was the right one. And so, the choice was made, fully, without regret. The soldier lifted his weapon, his stance firm. The girl's glowing marks flared like fire beneath her skin. The hunters raised their weapons, the air thick with tension, and in that fragile moment, just before the battle began, the soldier whispered one last time, "No matter what happens, I'm with you." The choice had been made. The path ahead was dangerous, bloody, and uncertain. But for the first time, the human soldier was not fighting for orders, not fighting for war. He was fighting for something greater. For her, for trust, for a bond no one had seen coming. The forest shook with silence. The hunters ready to strike, the soldier ready to defend, and the girl's hidden power waited just beneath the surface. The choice was sealed, and nothing would ever be the same again. The twist. No one saw coming the forest was silent, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence before battle, sharp and heavy, pressing down on every breath. The human soldier stood firm, weapon raised, his body forming a shield around the alien girl. The hunters closed in, their dark armor gleaming faintly under the weak sunlight that slipped through the trees. Their weapons glowed with cruel energy, humming low like beasts ready to strike. The girl clung to the soldier's arm, her glowing marks flaring brighter, pulsing, in rhythm with her pounding heart. The standoff could not last forever. The hunters moved first, sharp and precise. One raised his weapon, firing a bolt of energy that seared the air with light. The soldier reacted instantly, diving to the side, pulling the girl with him. The blast struck the ground, burning a deep hole into the earth. Smoke. Rising sharply, the soldier rolled, lifted his weapon, and returned fire. The shot cracked through the trees, striking one of the hunter's armor with a loud spark. But the hunter only staggered, unharmed, their armor too strong. The girl gasped, her glowing eyes wide. She pressed her small hands against the ground, her body shaking. The glowing marks on her arms spread further, crawling up her neck and across her chest. The soldier saw it, his eyes narrowing. Whatever secret she carried, it was alive inside her, waiting. The hunters fired again, blasts of energy ripping through the forest. Trees shattered, ground tore apart. The smell of burning wood filled the air. The soldier ducked behind a thick trunk, holding the girl close. His mind raced. He could not fight them forever. Their weapons were too strong. He looked at the girl. Desperate, she looked back. Her eyes filled not only with fear, but something else. Something hidden. Something rising. One hunter broke from the group, circling wide. Another moved forward, raising a glowing blade from his weapon. The soldier clenched his jaw, preparing for close combat. But before he could move, the girl cried out. Her voice rang through the trees, sharp and strange, carrying power in its sound. Her glowing marks flared bright, so bright the soldier had to shield his eyes. The hunters stopped, their weapons lowering. For just a breath, the girl rose slowly, her small frame trembling but her glowing skin burning with light. The marks across her body connected, forming shapes, symbols, living patterns that pulsed with energy. The air itself changed, thick and electric, vibrating around them. The soldier felt the ground tremble under his boots, and in that moment, he realized the truth. She was not just a child, not just a lost girl. She was something far greater. The hunters shouted in their alien tongue, their voices urgent, almost afraid. They fired again, bolts of energy streaking toward her, but before they could strike, a wave of light burst from her body. The blasts dissolved into nothing, swallowed by her glowing shield. The forest shook, trees bending from the force. The soldier stared in shock, his weapon lowering slowly. He had never seen power like this, not from humans, not from machines, not from any enemy. The girl's eyes locked on the hunters, glowing like burning stars. She raised her hands and the marks flared again. A blast of light shot forward, striking one of the hunters square in the chest. The armor cracked, shattering into pieces. The hunter thrown back against a tree with crushing force. The other hunters froze for a moment, their confidence broken. For the first time, they looked uncertain. The soldier looked at her, his heart pounding. The fragile girl he had offered warmth to. The child he thought helpless. She was not helpless at all. She was a weapon. A power. Maybe even something the hunters feared more than anything else, and yet, as her light flared brighter, he also saw her trembling. Her body was small, her breath shallow, her strength costing her dearly. The hunters regrouped, shouting commands to each other. They aimed again, their weapons glowing hotter. The soldier knew they would not stop. not until she was taken or destroyed. He stepped forward, standing beside her, raising his weapon again. Together, he whispered. The girl looked at him, her glowing eyes softening, and for a moment she smiled. Then the battle exploded again. Energy blasts tore through the trees. The soldier fired shot after shot, each one pushing the hunters back. The girl unleashed waves of light, shielding them both, striking out when the chance came. The forest became a storm of fire and light, destruction raining all around. And yet, through the chaos, the soldier felt something growing. A bond stronger than fear, stronger than orders. A bond forged by trust. One by one, the hunters fell, broken by the mix of human steel and alien light. The last of them staggered back, his armor smoking, his weapon useless. He gave one final cry in his strange tongue before fleeing into the trees. The forest grew silent again, the storm fading. The soldier lowered his weapon, his chest heaving, his arms shaking from exhaustion. The girl collapsed to her knees, her glowing marks dimming. He rushed to her, catching her before she fell. Her body was weak, her breathing shallow, but her eyes still glowed faintly. She looked at him and whispered, a single word in her broken voice. It sounded like safe. The soldier held her close, his heart pounding with relief and confusion. Safe, yes, for now, but what did it mean? Who was she really? Why did she carry such power? And why did the hunters fear her so much? The twist was clear now. The girl was not just someone he had saved. She was someone who could change everything. A secret the galaxy wanted to hide or destroy. And by choosing to protect her, he had tied his fate to hers forever. The soldier looked out into the trees, knowing more hunters would come. This was not the end, only the beginning. But he also knew one truth burned brighter than all others. His simple act of kindness, offering a sleeping bag to a shivering child, had awakened a bond and a power that no one had expected, and that bond would shake the galaxy. The human's kind offer had taken a twist no one could have imagined, and the story of man and alien girl had only just begun.